Hey guys, this is me. This is Rolo. Welcome to my show. This is not Rule Zero. We're having some audio issues with Ryan today. I had to go live because if I didn't, I was going to lose patch for.
You should have typed that in the chat. I was just cussing on the mic.
I know. I should have. Well, StreamYard is well, they're doing some really nice things, some really cool things. I hope you guys like the new audio here. I'm actually on through an audience Sono box that one of my readers / listeners / viewers, I guess, sent this to me. And when I got it, it's a really great box. And when I got it, I didn't realize it was really more for like recording on the computer and using it as like sort of a sound, like an input device, I guess, for podcasting and all that kind of stuff. And now, man, this is awesome. I have total control over my EQ here. It's a Valve amp too, so excuse me if I'm over modulating. I hope I'm not, but I think I finally have mastered the radio voice that Pat Campbell does all the time, because he's in like a multi-bazillion-dollar studio every time. Ryan, I can't hear you. You got yourself muted, dude. There you go. Now you're off. So excuse us while we sort of rig our brand new audio setup here. So what I wanted to talk about today is we're going to take well, I'm not going to take calls, but I'm going to take to chats where we'll be doing a Q&A. I got Ryan at least for an hour, I think, if he's got this thing set up. So here's the deal. Just recently, there's a few things that I wanted to talk about. Like last night, somebody sent me a link to I guess the story or the speech that Michelle Obama had talked about with respect to like men and friendship, and I want to get into that a little bit later in the show, because I think that was a really good illustration or example of just how we live in this sort of feminine, female correct social order, and how when men are friends, that male friendship isn't like quote unquote real friendship, right? She was trying to explain why men don't have real friends, because they don't emote like women. And it is, I mean, to the letter, exactly what I've always written about with yeah, you guys can ask questions. That's fine. But it's to the letter everything that I've ever said about how we live in this sort of female correct social order, and how we raise our kids and our boys as if they're defective girls. Well, those defective boys grow up into defective men, and we're reminded of this constantly. And here's another reminder of just how we don't do things right. We don't interrelate with each other right. And so the correct way, of course, to interrelate with another guy is to like be as emotive or as emotionally like in tune, I guess, with another dude in the same way that women are supposed to be in touch and in tune emotionally with each other. So we'll talk about that later. But the topic du jour of last. So I got Ryan with me today. Thanks for joining me today. We've been talking about this in our Twitter DM for a little bit right now, and Ryan, I'm just going to come out here and ask you, what's your favorite kind of pornography? Just tell me real quick.
Well, according by the statistics, as a Canadian, I like Japanese hentai, and scissoring is on the downslide.
Scissoring, damn, man, I totally missed out on scissoring.
Yeah, well, here, and with your Michelle Obama thing, I will add this, where she's talking about how men getting along emote and talk too much about their feelings. I think that's one thing that I'm perfectly happy to let everybody guess and not figure out.
Yeah. Yes.
Sharing is caring, and I don't care right now.
Well, the thing that got me, and I've written at least 4 different essays on how, well, actually probably more than that, how men interrelate or how we communicate. I've talked about this like ad infinitum about the different communication styles that men use and women use. Like,
yeah, well, not just you either. I mean, there's a lot of red-pilled writers that have been on it. There's Ironwood is the other like go-to example. Between the two of you guys, you've pretty much got it covered.
Oh yeah. And the other thing is it also goes down to how men and women process emotions. And when, and if you've read any of my, gosh, has it been a year already? I wrote a series called Instinct, Emotion, and Reason. And this was actually a 4-part series that I did. And I actually should probably dedicate a full show to this, or some people are suggesting I make it like this, like the basis of my 5th book. So let me get past number 4 first, but I'll consider it. But in that series, I talk about how our brains are literally wired differently. The gendered differences between the sexed, gendered, whatever the hell you want to call it, those differences take place in the womb. They take place when our brains are forming in the uterus. Okay. So, and I can show you the research where this happens. Okay. The other thing is we also have, it's well researched that men and women process emotions differently. So when women say, well, you guys are so emotionally stunted and you guys are so, there's something wrong with you because you guys don't process, or you don't prioritize emotion before reason. So so there's something wrong with you and there's something bad with you. And guess what, guys, from the age of 5 years old, we're going to teach you that that's wrong. And we're going to teach you how to process things the correct way, which is, of course, the female way of doing things.
And so the funniest part about that too, it's not that they're being malicious. I actually would love it if they were evil and it was doing this as some war room Doctor Strangelove thing. It's just they don't know any better.
Yeah,
it's like you and me trying to describe how the female period should go. Like we're not going to be able to explain it with any any insight.
Right. Imagine us saying, well, here, ladies, here's how we think you ought to handle your menstrual cycle. And you should follow this because this is the male way of thinking about things. And therefore you should follow us because this is the correct way. Well, same freaking thing. And so when I see like Michelle Obama talk, and I talked about this because there was an issue or excuse me, there was an article in the Boston Herald about a year ago. And it's funny how it always comes out around Christmas time, because that's when they know guys are going to be like, oh man, I don't have any life. Oh man, I don't have any friends, or they'll say, guys, and to an extent, I think that they're right. Guys between the ages of 45 and 55 or 60 some odd years old, though, that's the prime demographic for guys to off themselves. And they'll say, well, because they don't have any networks, or they don't have any social networks. They don't have any
had.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they might have before they got married and they had all these responsibilities of maintaining a family. But men simply don't form the networks that women do based on the same process that women do. But because we don't do that, Michelle Obama says we're just inferior, organisms on planet Earth, and therefore we need to be perfected like perfect women.
God, the apex middle-aged soccer mom. How dangerous.
Yeah.
Dude, that's what I mean when I talk about that middle-aged soccer mom being like apex predators. If she can literally run her mouth, say the stupidest thing ever, and not only will she not get arrested, but like people will defend her to the death to say dumb shit. And I'm absolutely amazed that the thirst runs so deep that a girl can be, how old is she? 50, 60? How old are the Obamas? Any Americans know?
Oh man, they gotta be late 50s, maybe early 60s.
So at that age, she still has that much weight to talk about men and boys. Like, dude.
Yeah.
And don't they only have daughters anyway? Or do they have a son?
Yes. No, they just have 2 daughters. And of course, that's another thing that, the whole thing is very feminized in the first place. But,
and it's politics. So it's not like they have to speak on experience because, that's politics to say whatever you want anyway, but still.
And that's the first thing that I run into is like, if I say, like, I try to be as measured and as objective as I can. I go, okay, here's Michelle. I know. Here's Michelle Obama talking about how men don't do friendship right. And then of course everybody goes, well, she should know she's a man, or it's always something like that, Okay, I get it, political, whatever, but like, can we talk about the actual subject on Twitter? Apparently not. We can't.
No. Well, it's like that. You've seen that meme, that Who Shot Hannibal one, where the first panel is Hannibal getting shot, and the second one is like, how did this happen? That's exactly what happens with that female invasion of male spaces, the crush the patriarchy. Gentlemen's clubs need to have chicks in them, girls riding bicycles, wearing pants, like, that whole deviancy thing there. The problem is the side effect of that is they actually males all lost their spaces, because as soon as you put a chick in there, a guy will turn his goal from whatever the group's goal is into vying for the attention of the woman.
Right. Right.
And if you want to see it and be a modern example, just put any 30-year-old thought on Twitter talking about red-pilled truths and watch how the community just bandies up against her.
Yeah.
Not mentioning any person in particular right now.
Hey, do you know who Gary Wilson is from Ebon P? I have no idea who this is.
No idea.
His Svetan, I think that's how you pronounce her name. I don't know who that is. If you want to hit me up with a link, I'll be happy to go check it out. So I don't know. I love it when people like throw the I love it when people throw like, hey, check this great podcast out, and they're happy to like give me like a $10 thing, and all basically it becomes a shout out for whoever's podcast it was.
Oh, you got that kind of pull now.
Yeah, Kingmaker. Right. Well, hey man, and here's the big news, and I didn't say anything about this on Twitter, but I did just pass 50,000 followers on Twitter, which I think is now the threshold for Twitter to actually take me seriously. And so if I get banned or suspended for the slightest thing, you'll know why, because I think I'm probably now on their radar. And that goes with the nice 30,000. We're almost at 31,000 subscribers on this channel right now, which thank you guys very much for participating with the show.
Damn, look at you, successful. All you had to do was write 4 books. Not once did you talk about how great you were or give yourself a title.
Yep. Stay on message, man. That's what I'm told is the best thing to do, is to stay on your message, right?
Yeah, stay on the message, give some red meat. At least that's what I've learned, although you're doing it better than me, so who am I to say?
Speaking of red meat, speaking of meat, so I guess the topic du jour of this week has been pornography, and
jerking off.
And I talked about this a little bit. Yeah, jerking off about jerking off. So we're literally going to have a circle jerk here in the atmosphere, apparently. We've talked about this before. People like were hitting me up and saying, well, are you going to talk about porn? Are you going to talk about Gab? Because Gab apparently has banned pornography from their platform. And I mean, that's
so white supremacy is good, just as long as it's not naked.
Right. And I think, and I'm on Gab too. And I moved over there, not wholesale. Obviously I'm still on Twitter, but I moved over to Gab too, because a lot of people were going over. That's actually the only place I can go and still like read Artiste when I feel the urge.
Oh, so that is him. I've always wondered if that was him or somebody else,
or whoever's running the account. Anyways, they're speaking as if they are Artiste. When Artiste, when was it? Last April got booted from WordPress of all places. Whoever was on Gab was talking like they knew what they were talking about. So I presume that that's actually the Artiste on Gab. But Gab right now, the quote unquote free speech alternative to Twitter, has decided that they are no longer going to be participating in any sort of pornographic, I guess support of.
I just can't believe how.
Is it called a Gab or is it called a tweet? Whatever the message is.
I don't know. All I know, I'm surprised how little research they did into free speech when they started running their mouth there. Like, did they not understand the porn free speech thing? That was, at least from an American court perspective, it was decided long ago. Like, and people are trying to equate it to, like, you saw the tweets, like, oh, does that mean if you can have sex in a public park, that's okay? It's like, no. The videotape of the act is the art, or is the free speech. That could be free. But if you just start having sex in like the White House or something like that, you'll get arrested for public indecency.
Right. Yeah, that's what everybody was saying. It's like, well, if you think that if it's free speech, then you should put it on a big projector in a town hall and see how quick it is that people, come and turn it off. And it's like, well, that doesn't mean it's necessarily not free speech. It just means that people are offended by it and they would rather not see it.
Yeah, and didn't we just have a bunch of chicks in Spain screaming while they're buck naked out in the street as their public free speach? Seems to be fine there, as long as you don't have a woodsman in the shot, I guess.
Yeah, we're okay with that. That's it's funny. I posted which became a very viral tweet. I didn't even intend it to. I was just sort of mouthing off because I thought it was sort of ironic, because we've done this before. Right. And also in an election cycle that last election cycle back in 2016, 2015, we had this exact same conversation. And I wrote I wrote one essay about it back then. It's called Ghosts in the Machine. And I've also linked it here in the descriptions if anybody wants to see it. But we were having this discussion during an election cycle, just like we're going through all this other cyclic crap that's going on right now. The schism in the red pill. Anybody remember neo-masculinity? Anybody remember that great vehicle for
that
someone's notoriety?
Line where he's like, I got to get the fuck out of here. These guys are, I can't remember what his comment was, but something like, these guys are idiots and I got to get out of this space to make something of myself.
Right. Or
exactly. Every 4 years.
Well, and if anybody wants to know what I'm talking about, there was a quote unquote schism in the red pill right around 2015. And this was the time when I was sort of having my falling out with Roosh. Because Roosh had decided he wanted to go on Dr. Oz and then pretend as if he had been ambushed by Dr. Oz. And I was the one, that pointed out that like a year prior to that, he had written a piece for, I think it was Return of Kings or his own blog, saying, titled Dr. Oz is a liar, or Dr. Oz is an effing idiot, and his wife runs the show for him. And he wrote a very in-depth article about it. And so for him to go and say, well, I got ambushed by Dr. Oz on the show, it's like, no, you didn't. You got a big fat payday out of it. And that's okay. You know what?
Yeah, but you know how much money there is.
You just don't pretend
to ambush me. Give me some money. Of course, guys are going to latch onto that. They love it. Team man got beat up by team woman. Let's back them up.
Yeah,
it's like watching wrestling now. Why don't guys just stick to wrestling? At least then it was entertaining. And the guys with it.
I think that the payday was it was irresistible, especially for a guy, living on his own more, especially for a guy like Roosh. Okay.
For a renter. We'll just leave it at that.
For a renter. Let's just say that. And again, I like Roosh. I have, quoted him and put him in the acknowledgments of the first 2 books. So and to this day, I think his old stuff is really on point, and I would still recommend it. I just don't think anything past 2016 is worth recommending anymore.
God, that's such a red pilled theme. Other than you, I could think of like Athol K, Cernovich, Roosh.
K. How many people in the how many people in the chat right now even know who Athol K is? That's what I would like to know, because I think
judging by these avies, I think it's a lot of single guys here, so they probably don't.
Probably have no idea who Athol K is. Yeah, and anybody know who Suzanne Walsh is from Hooking Up Smart? That's where good old Socrates lifted his name for his blog, but nobody remembers her because now she's gone. I used to lock horns with her all the time, and we had these same discussions also about pornography. So when I was writing about this, when I was talking about this back in 2015, 2016, like a lot of people think, and this is the danger, I think, and I think you probably run into this as well, because you had some pretty choice tweets over the last week. As a result,
gotta give them red meat, man.
yeah, you do. And in a way, I think you do. But they, well, let's just say Gab and the people who align themselves with Gab are very anti-porn. Okay, I'm okay with that. But can I ask some questions at least? Can I at least say, okay, how did you come to being against pornography? If I ask that, oh, you're endorsing pornography. You asked a question that sounds like you really are into jerking it off. How about that, Roll? No, I'm just asking a question. Can I please ask the question?
Don't you love that? That first tactic is shame. Such a chick thing to do.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like, this is like the gun argument for the states. You guys are arguing about liberals, I guess, are arguing to remove the guns from you guys. Meanwhile, there's 500 million guns in the states. So even if you had everybody on board, logistically, it's just impossible. And you notice how nobody talking about banning porn is talking about banning porn producers. It's always the consumer. I'm not sure what to make of that one. I have a feeling there might be some like capitalist inkling there why they don't want to go after the manufacturer, but it just seems like this wedge issue to rile people up that jerk off and feel guilty about it. I think they call them Catholics, but I mean, who knows now?
Well, and it used to be the really super religious that had a problem with that. It certainly wasn't the manosphere.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're the categories that are like the most searched. Well, actually, technically, the most searched now is Japanese hentai. So,
and so let me just clarify a few things here with respect to porn. Do I think it should be? I think it should be regulated. I definitely think that kids having access to hardcore pornography is kind of crazy. How you're going to do that, I don't know. The genie's out of the bottle, man. How are you going to push it back?
Pretty much impossible unless they get some kind of face, short of like a face recognition software that can recognize you and attach you to an age, which is technology I do not want to see. Like it's a stupid conversation to have because logistically, I just don't see how it's possible. But it's a symptom anyway. Like I said, that Japanese hentai, I'm going to keep going back to that. There's a reason it's the most searched term. It's because the antisocial guy who doesn't go out and get himself a girlfriend or get laid a lot and has no options, he usually watches anime, and then he kind of starts getting this warped impression of what sexuality is like, and they're viewing Japanese hentai, which is funny because the other top term, where did it go? I have a whole bunch of screenshots in this one, was it's like professional porn isn't in, it's on the way out right now. What's in is verified couples. So people are getting off on like waifus and the idea of having a girlfriend with a healthy sex life. So that should tell you that's not, it's a symptom. That's what people are looking for. That having a girlfriend at home and schlepping it up on Saturday is now a fantasy. Like maybe focus on that, trads.
I will say this is that, I've mentioned something related to this before, is we're coming up on a generation of individuals, of men, whatever you want to call it, who have been raised on digital media, have been raised behind a screen. Our socialization, our acculturation has been raised in a global sexual marketplace, as you guys know. But that's one part of it. The other part of it is that this is the first generation that has been raised or is coming into adulthood, I think, that has had access to pornography that no other generation prior to this has. So like I can remember when I was like 10 or 12 years old, and to find a Hustler magazine was like finding pirates fucking gold, man.
Oh, Easy Rider was mine.
yeah, exactly. Or back in the day when they had the Spice Channel or Playboy Channel or something on and of course, you know, your parents had their own porn, so they didn't see any reason to have the Spice Channel included with their basic cable.
So we had the satellite dish with the red card, so like G4 was all up. And if any 80s kids will remember G4.
So we had to you had to go and watch the scrambled porn, and you had to, you know, if you kind of look at it or you kind of tweak whatever the little, you know, the
pay $20, get the red card, man. They unscramble it for you. It's awesome. Every month, just get a new one when they update the algorithms.
Yeah.
We were the original hacking family.
Yeah. Well, you had to find out some way to get your rocks off or whatever, I guess.
But here's the point too. I don't think it's as big a problem as people are saying. I mean, I think it's obviously a symptom, but like you watch porn as a little kid, maybe not as much, but all that does is amplify it.
Yeah.
Once you started dating girls and playing rock music and crap like that, like you kind of nestled into a nice social comfort zone. And I don't think it's any different with, like, people haven't fundamentally changed. I think it was even Short Fat Otaku, another Canadian guy, he was talking about this. One of his friends growing up was literally one of those incels. That's exactly the stereotype you think of hating women and repeal the 19th, all that crap. And then he got a girlfriend and it just kind of all went away.
Yeah. And that's funny you should say that. That's kind of like how I sort of came into, my own girlfriend or my own sexuality as, being a teenager and all that is, when I can remember as being as young as at least 10 and having like a Penthouse magazine or a Hustler magazine. And again, like I said, you like hide those away like they're your pirate's treasure. But then after a while you discover girls, you start talking to them, and you're like, okay, well, I was it
this third dimension is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Farrell wrote about this in his book called Why Men Are the Way They Are. And like I said, I kind of have a love-hate relationship with Dr. Farrell, but in this book it was really good. It was he says that a lot of guys or a lot of kids, and this was back in like the mid 80s to the early 90s, those kids would fixate on what he called the genetic celebrity. And so that would be like Pamela Anderson, or it would be whoever, like the apex, like hottest chick that they could ever think of. Like for a lot of us, it was like Heather Locklear, or whoever the celebrity was who was like represented.
Tracy Lords,
Kathy Showers, man. I used to have a poster of that chick too. Or Christy Brinkley back in her day, man, when she was in a she was something else. Or that's another good one is the Sports Illustrated swimsuit editions.
Angie Everhart, Shannon Tweed. I could do these all day.
Tweed, yeah. Missing Simmons. But the thing is like after a while, and you're right, once I got to be about 16 or 17 years old, I'm like, okay, pornography, but I want a girlfriend. I want to actually get into this. And I lost my virginity at 17 years old. And that was because I was okay, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to figure this out. I'm a virgin at 15, 16. I've got to figure this out. Because of course, back in the 80s, we were watching like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, or watching something like everybody else is getting laid, or you think your best friends are getting laid, and basically none of them are, except for like the hottest, most alpha guys, and those guys are the ones that knocked up that one girl in high school that everybody knows about. So
I thought you were talking about that tweet where I showed up in grade 8, my first day of high school, and my one bestie was pregnant.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah. Grade 8, woo.
Yeah, there was always that one girl who got knocked up, and she was the pregnant girl at high school. And like, I'm pretty much in every, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but like pretty much in every generation, there's always that one girl. There might be 2 or more now, but I remember that back then. But like, so you moved on from sort of like print material. Maybe you watched when VHS and Beta came out, and when you had access to rent it. Yeah, but you still had to go down there, and you had to go, okay, I'll go and rent this, those kinds of things. And so there was sort of like an element of shame, associated with going into seeing like a dirty movie, or going and renting something from the selection of movies that were behind the drapes. You know what I'm talking about? Like, but like wherever, like at the mom and pop video store.
Well, that's why Maxim magazine got big too, because those were like, oh, it's just as close as I can get to porn without having to embarrassingly rip apart that plastic cover over the magazine. You guys remember? I don't know, the 80s and 90s kids remember that. For porn, to make kids not have it, they wrapped it in plastic, because I guess kids can't handle safety seals.
Yeah,
but that's when Maxim and all those like PG porn were huge.
And so they had, I know that, for a very long time, particularly the religious right have wanted to ban pornography. Feminism has sort of a love-hate relationship with pornography. There's the sex positive feminists, and then there's the we need to take it away from these guys feminists.
So the ones that are getting it and the ones that aren't, basically.
Yeah.
I've never seen a girl talking about getting rid of sex for guys that's having sex on her own, but
yeah.
And again, you just have to look at the photos. I'm like, yeah.
So
yeah, tubby.
my curiosity, I guess, with the whole pornography thing, and also the masturbation thing. A lot of guys, when we're talking about like No Fap November, and
speaking about masturbating, about jerking off.
Yeah, and okay. Like, if that's what you want to do, and you want to tell me like this is why I'm doing this, okay, I'm willing to listen to you and talk about it. But like, just because somebody is not doing that doesn't mean they're an asshole. Okay, it doesn't mean that they're a dirty coomer or whatever the hell they're calling it now. But I don't know. Did you ever read my my essay called The Pheromonal Beta?
Yeah, I've read everything. It's just your more popular stuff I can recall off the top of my head. But I do remember that one.
Beta is one of my.
That's when you got the thing about Mary picture in the cover, right?
Yeah. Do you ever see Something About Mary, that movie?
I did.
Yeah. So like when she's got the moose that's actually jizz, that whole scene, and it's a comedy, of course, but like that whole scene right there, I thought was interesting from a red pill perspective, because here you have a guy who's really kind of a beta male telling another beta male, you should jerk off before you go on a date, and that way you won't be all edgy and you
just relax,
spazzy, and you can relax and all that kind of stuff. And I thought to myself, I said, that's kind of like the worst thing you could do, because a woman wants to know that you find her attractive. There is a certain energy, I don't want to say energy, but there's a certain attitude that you will have, or there are behavioral manifestations you will have if you're not flooded with oxytocin, because oxytocin is a post-orgasm it's an endorphin. It's a post oxytocin is a chemical that is in your brain that gets released after you have an orgasm. So, and that's what relaxes you, and that's what makes you feel trust and nurturing and everything else. So you'll stick with a woman and live happily ever after, right? But like when I read that, or when I saw that scene and I started thinking about it from a red pill perspective, I was like, this doesn't make much sense, because God forbid a woman, I think the way guys come to this is they think that They believe the lie that women need comfort and rapport and familiarity in order to have sex with you, or in order to in some way become intimate with you. And
sex has to be a surprise, like it just happened. Hey,
like,
speaking of like men raised as defective women, women get to think that because guys put all the effort in. So now these defective girls are raising themselves to think, well, sex just has to happen. Heaven forbid I put any effort and willingness to show that I want sex.
Yeah. Or you a lot of guys make this mistake that if they desexualize themselves, that will sexualize them, right? Like to say, hey, I don't need it, it's all cool, we're gonna hang out, we're gonna be good friends. It's like that friendship tip, right? It's like, you gotta come in, you gotta make her feel comfortable, because that's what girls say all the time. I need a guy I feel comfortable with. But then she's off, at the bear parties, or in Cancun or in spring break, ripping her clothes off because she's had a couple of wine coolers, and she's
good old bitch pops.
yeah. Let me date myself more. She had a couple of Zimos.
Yeah, and it's ridiculous too, because the expectation is that the girl will make that risky maneuver of saying, like, let's have sex. Girls aren't going to put themselves up for even a close, nowhere near the planet of rejection. They're never going to orbit even close to it. So if you're not making the first move, they're not, even if they want to. A girl will rather go home and sulk about it for like days than take the chance that you might just want to have sex back. No, man.
I forget the name of this chick that is, I think she's like in her 30s or something. She's just getting back into dating, and she's on Twitter right now. She's the girl
one from that bike commercial.
She's the one that's doing the handstand in her
the paleo
chick. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but like I was reading her date kind of field reports, and she's saying, why isn't this guy making a move? It's like, I'm totally into him, but here we are on date 3 and he hasn't even tried to kiss me yet. And I thought about that. I go, you know what? That's that desexualization. Like, if I'm cool with it and I let her make the first move, then that is my confirmation to go ahead. And I'm like, well, that's not what chicks want, dude. They want you to take the initiative. And unfortunately, I understand there's going to be a million MGTOWs are going to say, well, that leads to danger. Danger rule.
Stranger danger.
Yeah. And it's like, well, but that's.
And to be fair, they have a point. Had this girl been on Cosby's side, she wouldn't be in this position now.
True.
And do you guys need me to 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon the line of thought there, or do you kind of know where I'm coming from?
I think I know what you're talking about.
All right.
So as far as when I look at like masturbation from a evolutionary psychological perspective, to me, I've like, one of the reasons why I titled that post the pheromonal beta is because there are certain behaviors that manifest themselves after you've gotten off, right? It's that oxytocin hit that you get afterwards. It's that relaxation that you get afterwards. And it's one of the reasons why I've said this, is that pornography is sedation. And it sort of prevents guys from using that sort of sexual angst that like we used to have, back when we were in the 80s or the 90s or whatever. And we had to find ways to move from like your Penthouse magazine to actually having a real girl in your bed. So there was a lot of things like guys will tell me this all the time, and I correct me if you maybe you've heard this or not, but it's a very popular, I think, mythology among guys who are leaning towards the MGTOW thing. And I asked them this question. I said,
mythology is a clever choice of words, by the way, very apt.
Right. Well, I've said this before. I asked these guys, I said, if you could take a pill that would kill your libido, that would like completely, you would never want to look at another girl, you would never look at porn, you would never, you'd never feel any sort of sexual attraction to, women or men or anything else. Like, you just completely cut that part of yourself off. Would you take that pill? And you would be surprised how many guys were like, yeah, dude, I totally would. And the rationale is that,
and not one of these guys have watched Soylent Green and see where that leads.
Yeah, or Gattaca for that matter. They will say, well, yeah, because that would free me up to be like my hero, Nikolai Tesla, or that would free me up to go and do all of the things that I want to do, but I can't because I'm preoccupied with sex all the time. Or like my favorite one is the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers never got married because they were busy trying to fly, And I'm like, Yeah, okay, but the drive, it's not like they cut their dicks off, okay?
What delusions of self-grandeur, by the way? They don't pick like this lawyer from New Jersey. No, they have to pick like Gandhi. Gandhi never got laid. Look what he did. I'm like, all right, well, how many Indias do you think there is that's going to be free in the next 20 years?
Right. Right. Well, and I get that, because I think the logic, I mean, this is, typical male deductive logic. If I wasn't preoccupied with all this all the time, then I could cure cancer, or I could paint the next masterpiece, or I could write the next great American epic novel. Right. And it's like, I get it. I understand why you think that, but that's completely wrong thinking, because it is that drive that puts you in the frame of mind that gives you, that's the same drive that makes you want to go after women, is also the same drive that makes you creative, that makes you want to do these things.
So, and it's exactly like the banning porn thing. It's attacking the symptom instead of the root cause. You're right. For the kind of guy who's going to make his fortune or build AC, whatever AC electricity is going to be for the new generation, he's not, if he thinks that porn is the only thing standing in the way of that huge logistical hurdle, then he was never going to get that anyway.
Right.
The kind of guy who can turn chicks down to get things done, he'll do it. That boxer, and I know this is common, that boxer that went like a week without jerking off or having sex just so he's got that little bit more tenacity in the ring, those are the guys that are winning matches. So if you can't even control your mission through base impulses, like, don't kid yourself.
Right.
That's pure, and that's the weirdest thing, because they know they're never going to not jerk off. They know nobody's going to develop a pill to help a guy out. They don't even care if he lives or dies. Well, they're not going to develop any of this stuff. So he always gets to have this, well, everything would have been perfect if only the stars would align and women would act right and the 19th was repealed and sex dolls looked a little bit better, and like all these impossible tasks. It's like Hercules, only he complains that, well, nobody could beat up the Nemean lion, so I guess I just have to, like,
suck it up. Don't bother. Yeah, give
Sorry
up.
about murdering my family there.
Yeah. Well, I talked about this with Hotep Jesus when I was doing my interview with him, and there was this one part where we were talking about, and I think this was also a topic he talked about on Joe Rogan. And Joe, I should say Brian, Hotep Jesus is very anti-porn, and which kind of surprised me a little bit. But then I guess I get where his sort of religious, rationales are too. So there's all you gotta.
Yeah, but you're not much of a drinker either, right? So I could see it being kind of the same thing.
Yeah, I get it. But my conversation with him was, he said, well, if you, and this gets back to energies and crystals and all that other nonsense, but like, it's like, if you don't jerk off, then it amplifies your energy or your chi or something like that, and you can be more productive because you're not jerking off. And I'm like,
right now, is it the hormone or is this the exercise and self-control? And I think that's the key part.
I still wonder if the jury's not out on that, and I'm sure there'll be a million people who'll correct me in the comments here or in the chat. But
yeah, chronic masturbators, speak up. Let's hear your story.
Yeah, please tell us.
Oh, I also got quiet all of a sudden.
Well, everybody shut up, all right. But the thing is, I think a lot of people think, and this is like the Rocky Balboa paradox here, is like, if you get off, or if you have sex with your wife before a fight, you'll lose the fight because it makes your legs go weak.
Yeah.
It's the idea that if you jerk off, your testosterone lowers because you jerked off, and I'm not sure that that's actually the biological case.
Neither in the No Fap where it goes up. This is a temporary effect. It goes away in like an hour or 20 minutes. It has to do with the refractory period. Is that what they call it?
I think so.
Yeah, guys, that's the reason why. By the way, you can't have sex with your girl twice in a row. But if, like, next door neighbor came in, you'd be ready to go.
Yeah.
Turns out our biology is hardwired not to sabotage our own knocking up of a girl.
Yeah. What does Yola have to say here? Sorry, guys. I am looking at the super chats. Sam is helping me out today. I did see our Russian friend whose name I can't pronounce. He says Gary Wilson and his research, I guess. Oh, it's sorry for the spam. He says your brain on porn. That's what it is. YB on P, right? And I've seen those guys before. Also, I'm familiar, by the way, so people don't think I am. I'm familiar with that. I'm also familiar with the Triple X Church and those guys and their argument for it. I want to talk about that as well, as like, what does porn actually do to your brain, and what do we know and what don't we know right now? YOLO here says, hi, if porn is nice, porn with a little at, is satisfying the male mating strategy, who is paying the fee paying for the free porn? Is the feminist imperative paying for it to lock down beta? Oh, so is
advertisers?
Yeah, the advertisers. Yeah, yeah, exactly. The advertisers are paying for the porn. The thing is,
and the guys who pay for it subsidize the shit out of you freebies.
This is a very good question. Is like, where does all the money for porn come today? Particularly because porn is free. It's ubiquitous. I can go on my phone right now and find, hardcore porn that I would never have dreamed existed when I was, trying to steal my uncle's Hustlers. Right.
Yeah. Well, do you know the free to pay model for video games?
Yeah.
It's exactly the same model there as it is for porn. It turns out, I think it's Brazzers has an office in Montreal, like their head office.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple whales, and they literally pay for the platform, and everybody else gets to be a free rider because of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the guys who do pay for porn pay for a lot of porn,
right?
A lot of porn.
Well, and that's another good a good I guess jump off point right there is like, what does, like, a lot of guys will say, well, porn is bad for you because it changes your brain, and I've said this before, is that it's a sedation. It makes it so you don't want to really do anything. I mean, when we think about this, when we think about the low, and this is statistical fact, as we know from last year, that sperm rates have dropped, right? How do we know that?
People, that's a pollution issue, isn't it?
Well, that's another thing, is xenoestrogens, or is it phytoestrogens or xenoestrogens? I can't remember, but like, whether it's plastics or it's like birth control in the water, supply or something like that. I don't want to go to Alex Jones here, because
that's just it. It's not though. It's like grounded science. It's the birth control. The molecules that create the estrogen in it are too small to be picked up in any water control filters.
Filtration, yeah.
So it goes straight through the water supply without any issues.
And then I go see a guy like Robert Frank, and I go, "What the hell? What do you mean?" But so there's that. But is it like some grand conspiracy? And at the risk of it becoming about the evil juice, I mean, that's where it's going to go eventually. Everybody takes it there as it is, but I think that we don't have a problem with porn if we didn't have a physiology that was all about pornography or all about that release. And in a sense, I suppose it could be considered a form of like social control. A lot of feminists
worse than cigarettes or booze, though.
Feminists will fight other feminists about this too, because you'll have one side of the feminist coin that will say, well, it's good because it keeps the rapists off the street, right? If they're busy like having sex with dolls, or they're busy, getting off on porn, or the free available ubiquitous porn, then that keeps rapists off the street. And then the other ones will say, well, no, it's creating more rapists because now it gives them an
now they get to practice.
Yeah, now they right, exactly. Because that's why a lot of feminists have a problem with sex dolls, is because they think it will teach those guys to be even worse predators or worse abusers, because they learned how to do it with a doll before they tried to do it with a girl. And then there's the pornography is ruining your married sex life, because you now cannot get off with your wife because you watch too much porn, and that's the only thing that gets you up and going now. And again, jury's still out on this.
Definitely not.
Jury is still out on this, and I know a lot of people will take me to task for that, but that's why I'm saying that, like, I want to know both sides of this. And if I go and if I say like, hey, the jury's still out on the idea that this is actually having any sort of psychological effect or any neurological effect on guys, then somebody will send me some stats, or they'll send me some research. Okay, great. But just because I ask that doesn't mean that I'm a dirty coomer, okay? Or that I want to, like, I'm going to be the next pornographer, right? Add that to the long list of my cult-like vices.
I follow a guy on Twitter who does like tickle fetish videos, which is like the tamest of like fetish porn. He's talking about it. I'm like, I really picked the wrong business. Helping men is not where the money is. Getting them tickling girls is where it is.
Well, I mean, look at the guys, and I don't want to poke too much fun at Andrew Tate, but look at the guys who are basically digital pimps right now. And more power to him. He's figured out a niche that he can make some money in. But the reason he can make money is because guys are like that. That's what they want. They're asking for it. They want that. So is it our are we our brother's keeper, right? Are we supposed to have some sort of responsibility for these guys who are going to go, if they can't get it from you, they're going to go get it from somebody else. And those guys exist. And they're going to, what was it? The one girl who's selling her bathwater for $30 for a jar.
Oh, she made the list of top 10 porn searches too. Daphne Bell there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so,
you know, it's not even the worst thing. She had a video where she licked raw chicken.
Dude, I saw this one, you know, somebody sent me a compilation of her stuff, and there was one part of that compilation where she's like eating a raw egg, like she bites into the egg and she's like looking and I know it's supposed to be sexy, and I know it's supposed to be like that, whatever that anime crap is. I have no idea why guys get off. Like, I have no idea why guys get off on feet. I don't understand that whatsoever. I don't understand fat, you know, like looking for, you know, whale hunting or anything like that. And I sure as hell don't understand the appeal of like anime, like big-eyed, you know, girls with like giant bajongas.
Where are her organs?
Yeah, where are her organs? Yeah, and I don't get that. But so when I'm like looking at this girl who's trying to emulate that by eating a raw egg and like trying to be sexy, that does the opposite to me, man. That's like scary.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. But that's the thing. If you've never had sex before, I can see the extreme stuff kind of appealing to you. But at the same time, that's a symptom. Everybody wants to shit on Belle, but she's not the one who created her fan base. Her fan base was already there. She just appealed to their desires. It's like advertising. They don't make public opinion. They just reflect it. But then I don't trust people talking about banning porn. Just put the logistics aside, put the porn is bad for you aside, because lots of things are bad for you. Driving's dangerous. Sugar and salt and hamburgers are dangerous. Booze, cigarettes, weed, all dangerous to some extent. When they talk about banning it, I don't understand how people can either not understand or not care about the implications of banning something like that on a mass scale. Like, it's a prohibition thing. And we've seen what happens with prohibition. If you ban something that's an innate part of the human condition, it goes underground. And when it goes underground, crime and violence go ahead. So if you ban porn and you actually can get it done, I guarantee you there's going to be some weird like porn mafia manifestation of people getting murdered over, you know, porn tapes or something like that. I don't know how it would work, but
black market porn.
Yeah, and we've seen it. Like, there's people killing each other over like tax-free cigarettes right now across the American border. So as soon as you ban it, you're going to create all this problem. And then the only benefit you get is to signal to your fellow countrymen how noble a person you are, because when you jerk off, you pretend like you're not. Like, come on.
Yeah, and you can use it for your next campaign speech is what it really amounts to. But like I think it's kind of a moot point, because it was a moot point back in 2016 when I wrote Ghost in the Machine, because we're still talking about it today. And nobody's
done anything. It was a moot point in Victorian England, which was like the most Puritan thing you could think of. And even then they had cafes that they drink absinthe and jerk each other off in.
Well, I think one of the, and I think I talked about this with the guys on Into the Gap, was we're at a point right now where we're having these conversations because the technology is going to change pretty soon. Like, what's going to happen when virtual reality becomes so immersive that
it is.
Well, yeah, it is right now, but we're not to the point where we're like, did you ever see the movie Ready Player One? Where the guy's in a haptic rig and all this other stuff. I mean, we're at a point. I mean, we're not going to plug ourselves into the Matrix just yet, but we can at least sort of go halfway there with a haptic rig and sights and sound.
And you've seen this. Haptic rigs exist. They even had like sample videos. I think it was on YouTube where a girl could like manipulate a thing and it basically hooked onto the guy's junk and she could basically virtually jerk him off. Google has Google Cardboard. It's like a $10 piece of cardboard that's essentially VR with some goggles on it. So like this stuff is pretty much commercially viable. The only thing that's missing is a good sales pitch that people could pretend it's not like a porn box.
So it's those guys. Like, we're talking about a generation of guys that are growing up behind a screen and are jerking off to, you know, videos online. But what's it gonna look like when a next generation comes around and they were brought up with haptic rig porn or, you know, virtual reality kind of porn, and
I mean, doing stims, walking around, being punk.
Yes, exactly. Well, and I on one hand, I think a lot of people think that I'm like pro porn. I'm not anti porn, but I'm not pro porn either. I do understand why guys are upset about this, or why guys are saying we need to raise an alarm about this, because, you know, I mean, well, I had a young daughter, I wouldn't want her to be exposed to that. But even if I had another son, I imagine me like, having to have that conversation like that. I would never have had myself from my own father, because that shit didn't exist back then.
And he would have been awkward. He wouldn't have never talked to you about it anyway.
He wouldn't have said it anyways. I mean, figure it out for yourself.
Your goofy friends that didn't know anything.
Yeah, I think really, I don't think that banning it is the solution. I mean, maybe regulating it is, but what is really the sort of the crux of the matter here is if you're a parent and you're watching this, or you're a red pill parent, I said this in book 3 as well, you have to be 100% in control. You have to be 100% on your game with your kids. And this is one more aspect of having to do that. So you're going to have that conversation with your kid. You're going to have to be the one who is saying, because it's not going away. If they're not seeing it on their own phone, they're going to see it on, Jimmy from soccer practice's phone. They're going to see it at some point. Yeah. And so you need to, now that.
What are you going to tell a kid though? What parent is going to tell a kid anything about porn that's not going to have the kid immediately tune them out? I just don't think it's a possible conversation. Right. I would argue, since it's a symptom, the solution of the symptom is making the guy more attractive to the point where a girlfriend is a better option than hand-drawn porn. But unfortunately, that's a harder conversation to have, because then it's like, oh, I got to get my son to work out. I don't even work out. Like, well, maybe there's the problem right there. Maybe it's not porn that you want to ban. Maybe it's the fact that you're, no offense to whoever's listening to this, maybe there's some good dads, but maybe you're the shitty fatherly role model that raised a shitty kid. And the both of you are sitting there playing Minecraft and then thinking about when the one of you goes to bed, the other's going to jerk off to Daphne online.
Yeah.
Like, sort out that instead of blaming the scapegoat. The scapegoat thing, we gave that up in Old Testament. That's what Jesus died for, so we wouldn't have to have these scapegoats anymore. Yeah. Here's your Christian trad angle right there.
Han Solo says, what activity in the brain makes a man shoot a volcano as opposed to just oozing out a drop? What could a man increase hard shots which increase mood? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, there's porn stars. They go in their routines for that kind of stuff, how to get bigger loads. I don't know.
Is that really, the deal?
Yeah. Some guy was saying like the certain foods you eat and certain routines. I don't really care, but I'm sure you could find it if you look. There's no red pilled answer for this one.
Yeah.
I would suggest don't be dehydrated. That's probably your first bet.
The thing is,
what a weird question.
I know, weird question, but like guys will ask us that though. Like, I mean, it's particularly being in our neck of the manosphere, or our neck of the internet anyways. Like I have some sort of like magical understanding of like, what is it? Sex God Method. Have you ever read Sex God Method?
Yeah, it was on our Married Red Pill sidebar. Every guy was supposed to read it.
Yeah. Let's say that was an eye-opening read. If you want to know about sex from a red pill perspective, go read that book. There you go. Your answer is in that book. Actually.
Dude, just for Devi alone, I think it's worth it. As long as you understand that acronym and how to apply it, you're basically ahead of the game.
So I, as far as the pornography angle is concerned, like I said, I still think the jury's out. I don't think that excessively jerking off all the time is doing yourself any favors, because it is a part of desexualizing yourself. And
neither is that guy who smokes weed every day, all day. Some people just have addictive personalities and they need abstinence. But those people, if it wasn't going to be jerking off to porn, it'd be drinking themselves to death or whatever. So it's not really a problem you can regulate.
If it's something,
nobody gives a shit if they die or not. So you kind of have to take control of it yourself, because nobody cares enough to.
Like, I think the general rule of thumb is that if it would in some way affect your workout the next morning, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
It's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, if you're smoking weed, if you're drinking, if you're jerking off, all that stuff, if it's going to ruin your workout for the next day, you probably at least want to consider some sort of moderation for it. And again, like I'm still not 100% convinced that it rewires your brain. But I do understand or addictions, right? They'll say, well, this is an addiction. It's a porn, or what happened when like Tiger Woods finally got busted, and
his CYA calling it a sex addiction.
Yeah, he had to say, oh, I have a sex addiction. I'm gonna basically go take a 2-month vacation and come back and tell you I'm cured, and hopefully I'll be back in your good graces, kind of thing.
Yeah, what was he supposed to say? No, I just really like screwing guys, not girls that aren't my wife. Like, of course he's gonna say that. It's like Terry Crews. What's he gonna say? sorry, hun, you're just not doing it for him anymore because you got your hair cut like a pixie and you look like a man with these big knuckles. No, it's porn addiction.
Well, anybody who's watched my last week's show about hypergamy and men and women's basic innate mating strategy, you know, the innate mating strategy for men is unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. That's why pornography is what it is. That's why guys have a problem with it. And a lot of guys don't have that, I guess, mental maturity or that social maturity or even that personal maturity to really understand that. So it's like, you get these guys and they're like, take it away from me, please make it go away. I don't even want to have the option to have it in my life, and nobody else should as well. So
and on the other side of their mouth, they're talking about leading the family as a patriarch.
Exactly.
Like, clean up your room.
Well, you look at you look at a guy, and the Tiger Woods kind of, that whole situation sort of reminded me of this, is that here you have Tiger Woods, who before he was making millions and millions of dollars, he decided he wanted to marry, because that was the right thing to do, marry his Swedish swimsuit model and have babies with her and live this nice trad lifestyle. Well, now he's got, at the time he had at least 3 masters. I think maybe he's got 4 masters under his belt, and and women throw themselves at Tiger Woods. He's still a good looking dude. He's like at the time, I think he was his late 20s, early 30s, something like that. And so now he's realizing, I'm Tiger Woods. I can have sex with whoever the hell I want to. I can actually follow my innate sexual strategy. And you know what? That porn star looks great. I'm going to go after that. And you go, okay, well, you know, he's ruining his life because he didn't take his commitment to his wife seriously. Yeah,
his life sounds fine.
Okay, but
her life's not ruined. His seems fine.
Yeah. The fact of the matter, I mean, be ready to part with $100 million. It'll be just fine.
That's 2 more where that came from.
Yeah, I know. And so, you know, when you put it in those terms, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe he shouldn't have done what he did. He probably shouldn't have gotten married back when he did, because it was too early for him to get married, because he still believed in that blue pill, you know, ideal with that girl. And so everybody calls him this horrible human being because he cheated on him. Look at her, she's gorgeous, she's a swimsuit model. Okay, fine, I get it. But the process is this: men want unlimited access to unlimited sexuality, and that is why pornography is such a big deal. And also, that is why it is free, because and you are correct, that is why it is a means of control. It is a way of sedating generation after generation. That's why the red pill is necessary, to wake your ass up to this kind of stuff and to kick you in the ass and motivate you, because if it's going to ruin your workout tomorrow, you shouldn't be doing it.
But that's the thing too. So thinking about this one, if people are really mad that this guy broke his chastity vows of marriage and fidelity and all that, that's something that was much better idea to think about in the 60s or the 70s, when they decided to remove any kind of social or legal consequences to divorce.
Right.
So it's weird because people back then decided free sex sounds good. We're going to throw all this stuff out in the window. Love what you love. And then now we have people like, hey, those rules, why aren't they being enforced anymore? It's like, dude, talk to your dad. His generation is the one that got rid of it, or your grandfather, for some of the Zoomers in the chat here. So those aren't rules. For right now, fidelity in a marriage is strictly a gentleman's agreement.
True.
And I hate to say it, I know you're happily married and you guys have done well. It's kind of one of the reasons that I really talk well about my common law situation, because we really have no reason to be together other than we agree to every day. And there's like nothing stopping us except for, you know, us putting in most effort. And this is kind of going to go back to the porn thing. People are talking about, you got to get rid of porn because I can't control myself. Well, you got to set up processes to control yourself. If you can't handle porn, then obviously maybe you shouldn't be on the computer, especially when you're by yourself, or uninstall the app from your phone. As soon as you put it on there, you enable yourself to use it. You make it somewhat difficult for yourself, or you set up systems around it. Like, nobody who's working 80 hours a week has time to chronically masturbate. Nobody who's actually doing whatever the hell Tesla did that they love so much, he didn't have time to jerk off. He was too busy inventing electricity. And these guys keep putting the cart before the horse, thinking that. And if you notice that, I would have been great if not for this. And doesn't that sound like
this
a
is
cope
what's holding? Yeah, exactly. It's a cope. It's what's holding me back, kind of thing. And that's
always somebody else's
I
fault.
wish they would make it illegal so that I could be cured of this addiction. That
Yeah, no, you would just be arrested now for being the idiot that did something illegal because you have no self-control.
Well, it's like what is it? Was it Chris Rock had that one bit back in the, I think it was early 90s, about like, you know, if you made all the drugs illegal, if you made everything, you know, you took away all the drugs, you took away all the weed, you took away all the alcohol and everything. People want to get high, right?
Yeah,
People
like
would
get high off of random stuff.
Right. People would be like, just average guys would become scientists so they could figure out what would get them high, and it would still do that. So and I think it's the same thing with pornography. And I should mention this is that, and I've written about this before, is that every new major leap in technology is always used in some way to promote pornography.
Well, that's why VHS won those wars.
Right.
That's why DVDs, or not DVD, HD DVD. That's why Blu-ray beat out HD DVD. As soon as the porn industry latched onto these things, that's went. High speed bandwidth. Porn did that.
Yes.
In fact, you're right. We owe just about everything. I think we owe electricity to sliced bread. Somebody else, or to porn. Somebody mentioned here, that's how vibrators run. And I remember seeing those old Victorian like vibrating machines and those doctor things. They all needed electricity. I guarantee you households are picking them up so that they get a little bit of help.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing with like, I mean, why do we have hormonal birth control, right? It wasn't because, oh, well, we need to make sure that, you know, married couples can have sex and not have to worry about it. No, it was because we wanted to get off. We wanted to find some way that we can have sort of responsibility-free orgasms is what it boiled down to. And yeah, you're right. I think a lot of, and this is sort of the ugly truth, I guess, for pornography, is that it has motivated and has developed, you know, industries because why I will guarantee you this. People say, well, we're moving closer to robotics and everything. Yeah, we are, because we want to fuck them. You know? we're moving closer to virtual reality. Yeah, because we're going to get laid in the Matrix. That's why, you know, anything that we can do to facilitate that. I would also argue this is that one of the reasons I think that like certain drugs, particularly like marijuana, like, I don't know about you, but like marijuana will sort of accentuate or highlight or, you know, heighten the sex.
Really? It knocks me the fuck out.
I know. It makes, or other drugs as well do that, like ecstasy and Molly and what I think Molly.
Yeah, MDMA, Molly, ecstasy.
So
I've seen those.
Why are those so popular? Well, because it heightens the sexual experience and people get into it and get off on it. I would say that I know marijuana is. I've seen was it Dr. Lehman? Dr. Justin.
That's an awesome name. Dr. Lehman.
Right? Lehman. Yeah.
Starts everything off with, I don't know what I'm talking about here.
On his Twitter feed, like there's at least 2 or 3 different articles, research papers on marijuana's use in sex. And that I would say that probably has something to do with drugs.
Is Spanish fly still a thing, or is that like polio?
Shit, wasn't it? I thought that was just nonsense. Like,
I don't know. It's like one of those 70s drugs stuff you heard about.
You know what? That's a really good topic. You know, there was always like Viagra, right? Viagra wasn't supposed to be something to give you a hard on. It was like,
that was for runners, wasn't it?
A cardiac medicine, I think, before it became, and that was just a side effect. And people go, oh, hot damn, let's screw the cardiac stuff. Let's help guys with ED. Who are probably have ED because they've been jerking off too much. So,
or just low blood pressure because they've been eating like absolute trash. Hey, I was thinking back like 10 minutes ago. Remember when you were talking about you guys want to take that pill and you never have to look at women again?
Yeah.
I was just realizing SSRIs. Everybody's on depression medication right now and anxiety meds. So all those SSRIs, there's like, what is it, like a third of Americans are on those?
Mostly women too, but yeah.
Yeah, and do you know what the one, and I know you know the one side effect of those is absolutely kills your libido.
Yeah, you don't want to do anything.
You don't want to do anything. It mutes your highs and your lows, so you get this nice level. You have to beat him like he owes you money for 20 more minutes if you want to get anything out of it. It's an absolutely horrible drug. But I think that kind of answers your question. Like, if you could take something to not care about the other sex, would you? To which the answer is a lot of people actually are already.
Yeah. And where are they at now? And what it does it do is it just completely demotivates you. And it's not a sexual problem. It's a problem with you, well, dealing with it and using it. I think a lot of I think if you're getting laid, I think if you're like the kind of guy who fucks, like we say, oh, that guy fucks. If you're that guy, then if you're that guy,
oh yeah, these problems don't go away.
those guys, yeah. Well, I honestly, we like to point out like, oh, the Wright brothers or Nikolai Tesla. It's like, okay, well, you got a couple there, but there's a lot more guys who did have wives and were getting laid who made some pretty significant, changes to the world kind of thing. So I would say if we're going to say one, of course, correlation isn't causation, but like if we're going to say one is correlated to the other, I would say those guys are the outliers, not necessarily the guys who, if everybody if everybody put off their sexual nature, so that they could focus on,
bigger and better
doing great things for humanity, we would be on Mars right now. Like I've said this before, is like the one thing that's really kind of throwing Elon Musk off right now, we would be on Mars right now if he would just fucking alpha the fuck up. If he would just like drop this beta mindset with all his girlfriends and crying over stuff with Neil Strauss and his Rolling Stone, articles. Imagine what we could be doing if we could actually have control over that, still use that and channel it to use it for greater things, not turn it off.
Oh, dude, I'll even put our Chads versus their incels. You want to talk about Tesla there? Who was the guy? Benjamin Franklin. Wasn't he the one that had like a tenth of slaves were like from his lineage?
Yes.
There, we got that guy. How about this? Cuban Missile Crisis. Yeah. It's great. Tesla invented electricity, but Kennedy, while he's banging, actors in the White House there, just saved the world like twice.
Yeah. I mean, we can dig up all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Maybe I want to keep having sex because, like Kennedy, I want to stop the Russians from getting a nuke off.
Davey Furtado.
Any different than yours?
Davey Furtado says, "Is partying, clubbing something you should avoid?" I don't think so.
When you're 50, yeah. When you're 20, I wouldn't say avoid.
Well, I mean, why do you go and party anyways? Like, what's the point? I think a lot of guys, when they ask me these questions about like, oh, is it right to go partying or where can I meet a quality woman? A Bible study at the bookstore. Why can't I find any quality women at Barnes and Noble?
Where can I have a quality lawn? Well, get on your lawn maintenance, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, I mean, do what you want to do, but I mean, just keep it on. If it becomes,
make sure you're at work on time the next day.
If it becomes a problem, then you got to be on top of your game. Right?
Yeah.
And speaking of which, the next.
You're right, though. I will say this: when I get into a relationship, my need and urge to go to the bar drops off a cliff. So I already know I'm not there to have fun and dance to EDM. So do they actually? I guess that might be dating myself. They don't do that in bars. I think I stopped going at bars back when they stopped using black lights. It's a bit dating myself.
Black lights in the room that you got to go through before you actually get into the club.
Yeah, everybody's got the Tide powder they use that's all on their clothes and gin and tonics because they are the ones that glow. Yeah, that whole mystery method time.
It's funny for me, like when I have to go work a gig up at the lake. There's I won't mention the name of the place, but it's one of the older casinos. There's only 4 of them at the lake right now, but it's one of the older ones. And when you go to like their nightclub up there, you can tell it was like done like in the late 80s and early 90s. And you're like, well, this is a blast from the past. Well, I also wanted to talk about, I definitely want to get into the friendship stuff, but I also wanted to talk about male suicide. I know all these great topics. People are asking me, what are you going to talk about on Wednesday? And I'm like, well, it's going to be my Quentin Tarantino episode. We're going to talk about pornography, suicide, and guys having friendships, I guess. But
oddly a very connected set of topics.
I read a couple of, and I don't have them offhand here, but it's just as well. I read an article somebody sent me about this guy in the UK who was going through a really bad, I guess, breakup or something and set himself on fire. And then on the same day, I also read a Twitter thread from, I don't think it was Red Pill Dad, but it was one of those guys, one of the Red Pill Dads, talking about how, and I have the the link to it in the descriptions here, but he'd written a post on his blog about some guy that he knew who was going through a really bad relationship and was supposedly at least somewhat open to listening to red pill, awareness from him or whatever, but ended up killing himself. And
is that the where he did it in her house?
Did it in her house,
she didn't
so,
care.
So that she would find it, and she didn't care. And not that like she wasn't like shocked by it. I'm sure she was, but pretty much was okay with it, because as soon as he was gone, her life improved because of it. And people say, well, that's horrible. I can't believe that, or Rolla, when you say hypergamy doesn't care, that means women are immoral. And it's like, well,
not immoral. She didn't do anything.
She didn't do anything.
She's the one that killed himself. She was just this good, hard, single women, blah, blah, the script. That's the whole thing. Their whole hypergamy thing. If you're not the best option, then it's always about reputation management. And I think there's a post, Red Pill School actually had it, about the light switch effect. And that once you no longer become her best option, once she makes that switch, when it happens, it's as if nothing you ever did changed. Nothing matters. She doesn't know you. She doesn't like you. And you're just been a burden on her the whole time. She rewrites the entire history. And I know you got a post on that one too.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's called Flipping the Script or something.
Yeah.
Or rewriting the script. Are you looking up one of your articles that I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, it's like, yes.
No, I got my nice coffee drink here.
Which makes sense. I mean, everybody sees it. If you've had a girlfriend on here, everybody knows when you were together, your dick was huge. And then when you break up, you were a tiny dick.
Yeah.
She never liked you anyway.
Yeah. You're 6'1" and you've got a 9-inch personality, and then you break up and suddenly you're 5'4" and you were never over 4 inches.
Yeah, that's why those MGTOWs make me laugh. And they're like, if you're not 6'2", why try? It's like, girls have horrible spatial logic. They don't know what 6'2" means.
Well, they also don't realize that that women's standards crumble in the real world. So, again, what was it like? And it's funny because it's almost like contradictory. I see a lot of MGTOW guys will say like, oh, it's all about looks. Look, I did this experiment on Tinder, and I put my AV picture of me with like some V taper and like some 6-pack abs, and I made myself a child molester or a predator, or I'm a criminal or something, and I still got all kinds of returns, or people, girls still wanted to bang me. And it's like, yeah, but see, here's the thing, is that all that says to me is that it's not about that. It's about like what you have at that moment. So it doesn't matter what your qualifications are. Is what does that woman need in that moment?
Well, and still, remember that one YouTube guy, I can't remember what his name is, but he did a video where he approached a girl, tried getting her number, and she had a boyfriend, didn't want to talk to him. He came back like an hour later with like his manufactured entourage, like in a limo, had bodyguards, made him look like an important celebrity.
Yeah.
He picked her up again. It was like this weird like MGTOW revenge bait thing where he's like, you said you had a boyfriend, I'm out of here. Yeah, but it's like you said, it's the rules don't matter. There's not looks max, there's not height max, there's not earn enough money. All you got to do is tingle. And in that example, it was pre-selection. He was the same guy she didn't like earlier, but all of a sudden he had status and that turned her on. So it's almost like it doesn't matter what you have, just some combination of looks, status, and social acuity, I guess. As long as none of those are below that threshold. Yeah, pre-selection. As long as you got all these ones above a certain threshold of creepy to not creepy,
right?
Pretty much fine.
Well, I'm glad you said that too, because like that there's that revenge fantasy, and that goes back to like what I was talking about suicide. I think that when guys get zeroed out, there's a couple things that are going on. The first one is they have to decide whether or not they can snap back from whatever the setback is. Usually that's divorce, and the reason for that is because they believed for a very long time in the blue pill and their ideas about, or their ideals, I should say, about what a guy should do. And you do all this stuff and you put in your hard work, because everybody knows relationships are hard work, right?
Yeah.
You put in all of that effort and all that equity into the relationship, and then she doesn't care. She's like, you know what, screw it, I'm out. I found a better dude. It's been nice. I know we have kids, but I'm leaving. So you got this guy. So it's not just a hit financially.
No, it's emotionally.
Yeah, but it's also like idealistically too, because you've got these guys who have believed in this for so, one of the reasons why I always say, you need to get to guys who are in that kind of emotional trauma to sort of unplug them from the matrix, because at any other time they're going to be resistant to it because they've put in so much effort and so much energy. So when guys come to me and they'll say, Rolla, why is it that I can't unplug my best friend or my dad or my brother or whatever? It's why is it so difficult? And it's because if you're right, all the crap that they've been doing, all the investment that they've put into that relationship or into the way that they live their lives, all of that flies out the window and they don't know what to do with themselves.
Well, they do narcissistic rage, because what
Yeah,
you're
rage, or they kill. Yeah, exactly. Revenge fantasies.
Life is a lie.
Yeah, revenge fantasies, kill themselves. And that's really, I think, what a lot of these guys do when they kill themselves. Like the guy who set himself on fire, he was like saying, I want to die, let me die. That's what the guy was saying. He was trying to put him out with a fire extinguisher. He said, I want to die, let me die. He wasn't screaming. He was just right there, just letting the flames,
teaching her a lesson.
Teaching her a lesson, right?
Because that's the same narcissistic fantasy. Here to blow your mind. Those guys, they think that I'm the provider and I'm a good father. I'm good to my kids. That's a fantasy. They don't understand, like you said, you need to be their best option, the tingles, all that value stuff. So when a girl leaves, Karen leaves and takes the kids, that smashes his narcissistic fuel, because she wasn't a person. She was that good wife accessory to the good husband. And those kids were the good accessory to the good husband. They're like set pieces on his one-man play.
Right.
So when all that gets removed, that's an injury to that narcissistic fantasy. And you're right. That narcissistic rage is like a visceral reaction, and that's where you get guys who like go on murder suicides or light themselves on fire. So I'm actually surprised it's not treated as more serious, because by any other standard, this is a huge psychological illness that people are having. And they've self-inflicted it on themselves. And that's the problem, is you got the Stedmans walking around here trying to feed more people on this same Kool-Aid.
Yeah, that's why, and I'm hammering that home every time I see a story like this, because that is exactly where these guys end up, because they clung to those ideals that I've been trying to set them free from for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm an asshole for doing it, but like, it's that, or the guy is going to have this self-righteous suicide fantasy that if I kill myself, then she'll see. Then she'll
like the guy in Colorado. Do you remember him? It was last year. We were sharing it around. They've since deleted it. It was the chick lost a bunch of weight 6 months prior, left, took the kids. He murdered the kids, the wife, and then he's still alive and he's standing trial right now. So this whole family was murdered because of his fantasy. And then I think a year prior to that, there was another one, also Colorado. Guy did a murder suicide, killed everybody. So you can't say this stuff isn't serious and doesn't matter. And I'm going to fluff you. I hope you don't mind.
That's right.
But that's the good thing. It's
this
not
is the porn issue. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'll fluff you. But that's just it. As much as middle-aged soccer moms want to give you shit for whatever reason, like you're kind of doing them a solid, because 1 out of 1 million of those is going to get that husband with the right level of crazy that when you take the kids, he's going to snap and murder everybody. So it's kind of like a beneficial thing for society at large here, for guys to just walk into these things without that fantasy. And they're all fantasies. Remove porn and my life will get better. Make women act right. Repeal the 19th. Everything will get better. Remove this narcissistic fantasy and things will get better. But nobody talks about those, because that actually is what's affecting them. But that implies that there's something wrong with them, as opposed to something's wrong with porn, because that's out there.
Yeah, well, it's something tangible that's not. Yeah, exactly.
That's
it doesn't require insight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I was reading that from this guy and about the guy killing himself, and then of course what happens is, like, I'm trying to make the point that your suicide does not do, especially if it's a self-righteous suicide, it's not going to have the effect that you think that it's going to happen. And of course,
she's an expert at rewriting that narrative. And
right. Well, I mean, I'm looking at like cases right now of like little teenage girls who have encouraged their boyfriends to kill themselves, and they get off scot-free. They don't even spend like 3 months in jail because they just claim the victim card. The other thing is like, if you are the father of the children that you've had, you're now the ex-husband, and you kill yourself. First of all, you're doing your kids a disservice, but like, everyone is going to think of you as the asshole, not as the oh, well, geez, it was
the martyr,
the martyr. Yeah, they don't see you as the martyr. And and honestly, I think a lot, and women are going to lose their minds when I say this, but I think that a lot of women who have their exes there, they want those exes to die. They would like them to die because it will.
They won't lose any sleep.
Well, they won't lose any sleep, but they won't. They have access to insurance. They have access to sympathy. They have access to the victimhood card. Like for instance,
final giving her of the tingles.
now this was not. I don't. People want us like when Asia Argento and what's his name?
Oh, Chef Boy there.
Yeah, Chef. God damn it! I'm. Yeah. So when he kills himself. And pretty much kills himself because Asia Argento was cheating on him, or like at least that's the way that he interpreted it.
Mm-hmm.
So when he kills himself, the first thing anybody says, it's not Asia's fault. It wasn't her. She didn't do it. He had problems. He was suicidal. Yeah. He had a problem, or he was going to do the same thing with his ex-wife or whatever. And they want to make it about anything except for what the guy who killed himself wanted everybody to think. And he's not around anymore to set
up the narrative or defend himself.
Yeah.
Any of that.
So he's not around. Anthony Bourdain. Thanks, Sam. So Anthony Bourdain's not around to make his statement anymore, make his case anymore. And that was what I wanted to say is like, I do my damnedest to make sure that guys don't kill themselves. And the way that I do that is by making them as red pill aware as I possibly can. And unfortunately, sometimes the truth will set you free, but it doesn't make it any more pretty. And this is one of those unpretty truths, is that you killing yourself. I don't want you to do that. As everybody knows, my brother-in-law did that, and actually one of my best friends did that as well. And I would like to. I have guys tell me all the time, "Hey man, I was going to kill myself. I stopped doing it. I read your book, and now I see things in a different way." Great, I'm cool with that, but the idea of killing yourself is what I'm talking about right now, because I think that a lot. It's that revenge fantasy. If I kill myself, then she'll know. Then she'll see how serious I was. If I jump from this bridge, even if I maim myself, right? Now you're just a paraplegic because you had a problem with, or you do something rash, like you'll go and you'll kill the boyfriend of the guy. Now you're in jail, right? You basically
killing your own memorabilia.
Yeah. So now
OJ joke for you kids out there.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. But I wanted to say this is like, I think that, men kill themselves at 4 or 5 times the rate as women do right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they're successful for a reason, because they want
to pick up the gun until they're ready to go.
Want to do it. They say, well, women attempt suicide more. That is not a good stat for for women to be coming back up with. But like, I think that like a lot of people say, well, suicide is cowardice. Yeah, it is. But I think the guys who are contemplating it from a point of, I'm going to get revenge for this, they don't think this through, or they're not red pill enough to understand that the woman doesn't care. She's not going to care. She's going to move on. And I will tell you just from personal experience that my brother-in-law, nobody cares. And I was saying this in that Twitter thread, is that his kids right now probably don't even remember the date that he killed himself. I do. It was March 8th, but they don't know that. I'll guarantee if I asked them what was the day. Yeah, it was March 8th, 2003. And I'll guarantee you that they don't know that. And then his ex-wife, like I'm probably going to see her for Christmas. Right. And, here's the other,
can you pass the turkey? Sure. Oh, it's good cranberry. Yeah. Remember when you killed my brother? Pass the cranberry.
Exactly.
Squeeze.
How are your fake tits holding up after you took the insurance?
Oh, she didn't use the insurance money for those, did she?
Oh, it gets worse. It gets so much worse, dude. Oh man. Dude, like he had done. I'll really mess you up here. when they'd been together for 20 years, and he was actually building a house on a property that they had bought, and he was put, like every free minute he had, he was down at this project because he had this idea, this golden fantasy that into his 50s and 60s he was going to finally, the kids are going to be out, they're going to be empty nesters. He finally had his his pretty little cheerleader who was going to be with him till
Jordan Peterson fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. The Jordan Peterson fantasy. And as soon as he was gone, they sold that house and they sold off one of their cars, and she used that money to buy a Porsche, I think, and to get her boobs done.
She's literally selling the man's hopes and dreams for tits.
So here's the thing: is people say, well, that means she's evil.
No, that's a metaphor. That's what that is.
No, but see, here's the thing: is you can say that, okay, and I would probably agree with you in this instance, but that is the degree of indifference that you're dealing with. So don't ever think that killing yourself is going to in any way teach anyone a lesson.
I don't like people calling it cowardice. That's the other angle. Do you think at that point shame is really like an effective tactic? It's not. Guy's ready to kill himself to teach that bitch Karen a lesson. Calling him a coward's not going to straighten him up.
Well, and then I understand, because like whenever I, and this is another way I get in trouble, whenever I see a guy who killed himself, killed his wife, killed his kids, right, murder, suicide, blah blah blah, in every instance, my first instinct is the guy got zeroed out, and I would say 98% of the time I'm correct about that. But here's the thing:
I find the guy is like a massive, like cocaine meth head.
Yeah, or there's something wrong with him, or he had or like, well, I mean, it's like the Anthony Bourdain thing. Oh, he was just insane. We need to talk about mental health, or we need to talk about gun control. No, we need to talk about the situation, the fact that 4 or 5 times the amount of men kill themselves than women do. We don't want to talk about
poison. Let's ban frying pans. All right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the methodology is one thing, but it's always the same conversation, and it's always the same predictable process.
Well, that's what you were saying with the wife didn't care bit, or the sister-in-law didn't care. It's just that on a societal level. Like that New Jersey shooting that just happened there. Nobody cares about the dead people. They just wanted to push their pet projects. Oh, this is guns. Oh, this is anti-Semitism. Oh, this is, I don't know. Did they blame toxic masculinity on it yet? Or
probably they will. Well, what's interesting is when the Las Vegas shooting went on, first thing that they wanted to say is, well, it's gun control. Okay, that's where we start, and then we move on to these are white men. It's always these guys, and so now we're moving on to the white male trope,
right? And then they were toxic, but then they show the guys that were blocking bullets from girls they don't even know. See,
right?
So then they just adopt that same toxic language, but they're arguing it. So now the Overton window's shifted to the argument being, are white men toxic or not, as opposed to anything of relevance.
Let's see, here's the new shift, and this I wrote about this actually back in 2017 after it happened. Is the new shift is masculinity itself is toxic. There is no such thing as good masculinity anymore. So just because men are even at all conventionally masculine, testosterone is the most dangerous substance on the planet. That's pretty much the new pivot, I think, to the toxic masculinity song.
Yeah, it's too bad we're running out of it on such a rapid scale, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like helium for hormones. So that's a science joke for you nerds out there. We're running out of helium. Tell your grandmother this.
All right. Guys, if you have any questions, it's 4:33 here on the West Coast. If you have any questions you want to get in about anything we're talking about, that's fine. And my last topic of today was going to be Michelle Obama and how we don't do friendship right. And that kind of dovetails nicely with the as nice as I can put it, with the suicide topic.
She's a white male.
Yeah. If you guys didn't pick this up at the beginning of the show, Michelle Obama, I guess, had some speech, and I was reading an article about how she was saying something to the effect that men don't do friendship right, or we don't have any friends. And the reason we don't have any friends is because we don't relate like women do. And the reason I made a big deal out of this is because I've written about this on at least 4 or 5 different occasions. about how we live in not just when we say, well, we live in gynocentrism or we live in a gynocracy. Yeah, that's true. But we also live in a female primary, a female correct social order, meaning that if it benefits the feminine, if it benefit one of, like, people always ask me this, what's the feminine imperative? The feminine imperative to me is pretty much anything that benefits females, exclusively benefits females. And I mean that in like social aspects, political aspects, sexual aspects, whatever it is that benefits that. So it's not like people say, well, isn't that the feminist imperative? No, it's not. It's actually, feminism is actually an operative arm of the feminine imperative. Yeah. So whatever, like chivalry from back in the Middle Ages, that was an operative arm of the feminine imperative of that time.
Sun Hat Gods, another one. Actually, can I tell you a quick anecdote that'll help guys understand this? So when they talk about the feminine imperative, I'm going to talk about the Red Pill subreddit. When it first started, Robert Fisher started it, and he had a little scree. I actually have it up on my blog right now, and he mentioned the reason that he left the pickup community to start this Red Pilled one in 2011 or whatever year they started it. And he mentioned specifically self-improvement was the appearance of the feminine imperative within male spaces. Pickup used to be about, I want to be able to sleep with more girls. So what can I learn to get me there? And so then they started to learn that. But then women started seeing, and they started calling it manipulative and bad and wrong and evil. And that's when the guys immediately switched it. Well, we're not trying to sleep with girls. We're self-improving. We're going to be, and I know Rich probably hates it when I bring this up, but we're just trying to be the best men that we can be. And right there, they already switched from a male-centric point of view. I'm learning pickup to pick chicks up and sleep with them. To I'm self-improving to be the best man I can be, implying for you. And it's right there kind of where Red Pill got its own little start on that side of things. It's like, no, how about I'm doing this for my own benefit and goals. And if they align with yours, great, but we're not going to placate it. So it's kind of this whole Red Pill thing really did get a big boost just from separating from the female imperative. And that's a perfect example. Self-improvement. Female imperative right there. Take that, self-improvement Twitter with your knuckle push-ups.
I get what you're talking about. I can remember back in those days, I used to and if you ever go through my comments of my articles from back in like 2014, 2015, around there, I used to lock horns with a lot of guys, a lot of the pickup artist community. Because they didn't think that, and probably rightly so, I think at that time, was that Red Pill was just about picking up girls or finding a way to, like, understanding women's nature, but then using that awareness to get laid, to live better lives with women, whether you wanted to do that in a relationship or not.
And having the pickup community bitch about that, of all things, shows you exactly what's wrong with it.
And so, like, PUA used to like run me up the flagpole for that, because I would say stuff like, well, amuse mastery is great, and I'll tell you how and why that works, but wouldn't it be great if you actually had the mastery to be amused about in the first place, instead of having to actually, fake it till you make it kind of thing? And it became, how dare you? It became about the faking it rather than the making it. And I think that was the disconnect right there. Like, it doesn't matter what you actually think, as long as your behaviors are congruent. And I learned a lot from that. I say, I still repeat those things today. I say, you know what, your behavior has to be congruent with who you are, and what you're presenting yourself as. It's like that authenticity thing. And that's when you get into, like, so that kind of subjectivity. It's like, well, what's authentic for you is not authentic for me, or your truth is not my truth.
That's another word I don't like, that authenticity. And that was where I put that photo I took when I first saw you at the 21 convention. That's the cover for that one. It was you. I was just like, first time I saw Rollo Tomasi, you were surrounded by 20 dudes telling, I don't even know what stories you were telling. Probably Roost stories, because those are your popular ones.
I wasn't.
I remember that, and everybody's talking about being an authentic man and that, and they were just trying to emulate you. And that's when I realized authentic guys don't want to be authentic. They just want to have the appearance of being authentic, because big towels, doll fuckers are authentic. Guy smokes weed all day is authentically being himself, but it's a meaningless term, which explains why so many self-improvement guys love it, because then that means they don't have to do anything to meet that criteria. Well, I'm being authentic because this is who I really am. It's like, fuck, who cares? Nobody was fucking you. So how good is authentic working for you?
Yeah. So I have this I have the it's called Blurds Online. I don't even know what I don't want to give them any traffic, to be honest with you, but I'm looking at this right now, and this was sort of the blog that was written in the wake of Michelle Obama's talking about how men don't do friendship right. And
Right.
at the end of it, she says, let's see, I think, is this a guy or a girl? I don't even know who's reading this, or writing this, but
Girl,
we
husbands
don't.
in politics. That's the
Oh,
most
no,
like
it's men. It says we don't support each other. Oh, here it is. We don't support each other at all. Two of my friends know about Blurds Online. They don't read any posts. They don't watch any YouTube videos. They don't listen to any podcasts. None of them know I released a book. That's fair. I don't know what to do, or I don't know what they do when they're not working. Someone could have an entire series of albums on mixtapes, and I wouldn't. I would never encourage people to listen because I wouldn't know if it
almost like if
existed.
they don't have a shared goal, they have
Mm.
nothing to communicate with each other with. If
Here
you
it is.
thought about it.
Here it is. Here this. If a woman is dating a guy that's no good for her, the friends are on it, right? They let her know why he's trouble. If she's about to go do something that could ruin her life, they're pulling her back to the right path. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I
As
don't know
men,
about that either.
as men, we don't have each other backs like that. If I'm going to do something stupid, nobody is yelling, please don't do it, reconsider. See, and here's the thing, that's bullshit. Because the problem is, and even if that was true, here's the reason why it's true, is because if we say those things, we look like misogynistic assholes.
Yeah.
So if I say, hey, look, Ryan, you shouldn't marry that girl because she's nothing but trouble. Like, just like I could use his exact same words. She's nothing but trouble. If I said that to you, you'd be like, get the fuck out of here. You know what, who are
And I
you?
would tell her, and she would tell everybody, and then you're the dick of the
And
week.
then I'm the dick. Or if I was to even just like suggest you not get with her or not marry that person, like if I go and I say, hey man, you should stop smoking. Like people think I'm a hero, right? Or hey man, I'm going to help you get off of heroin. Oh man, you're a great friend. I love you. If I go and say, you know what, that girl is going to be pretty toxic for you for the rest of your life. What the? Get the hell out of here! Who do you think you are, Mister?
Yeah.
You know,
And maybe if you got good friends, they might take. Yeah, actually, you know what? I never listened when my buddies told me about Charlie. So yeah, no, you got it. I got nothing.
Yeah, so here he continues. He says, "I just did something stupid. I've dated a lot of women who were no good for me. Do you know how many times a friend has told me you need to leave her, or maybe you should go work on you? Absolutely none. Zero. Yeah, okay. This is the same guy who's going to run red pill guys up the flagpole for wanting to do that.
And he doesn't even want friends. He sounds like he wants a group of life coaches. Is what he sounds like. Yeah. And I could point him in the direction of a guy who'll tell him exactly what he needs to hear.
Yeah, well, and here's why. First of all, most guys are betas. Let's be honest here. Like what do we say, the 80%ers, okay? 85% of guys are betas.
One better. Most guys are absolute losers.
Yeah, well, that too. And most guys have scarcity mentalities. So of course they're not going to tell you that. They're going to tell you, well, you know what? Relationships are hard work. So maybe if you put a little more work into it, buddy, then things will come around. Or maybe it's your problem that she's no good for you. Maybe if you were better, she would be better, because they want to believe in that idealistic, because that's what men do, is our concept of love is idealism. And so we want to believe love conquers all, or we want to believe that we're never going to tell that guy, get rid of her, break up with her. We're never going to tell that guy that, because we ourselves don't want to be told that either, because we're so unused to that.
Read it.
Well, we're so unused to actually winning. So that's why we call it getting lucky. Like we're so unused to having, a woman actually be into us that, when a guy's having trouble with his girlfriend or whatever, she can even cheat on him. And guys and women will say, you should really stick it out with her, man. You should take her back. On the opposite side, the women will say, no, never take him back. But guys and women on the opposite side will say, well, if you'd have been a better man, then maybe she wouldn't have cheated on you. So yeah, that happens. The other thing here is he says, Michelle Obama is right. Men don't share emotions. Yeah, I know. Because we process emotions.
To want it, though.
Yeah. We don't open up to each other. We don't form those close bonds. When we do, it's great. But for the most part, we just don't. We're often so focused on ourselves, we don't stop to ask what our supposed friends are going through. We certainly are entitled in that sense, and it's the reason we don't have real friends.
Do you think this guy had the self-awareness to actually call any of his friends after writing this article, or was this pure navel gazing?
Yeah, mostly. I would expect it's probably navel gazing.
I'm going to go to Europe next month with two of my good sailor buddies. We've known each other for a decade or more. We've been through hell and back, and we always make time for this stuff. So all that stuff he's complaining about, yeah, we talk about our innermost thoughts. I know more about like his like my friends' families and their kids than anybody else, probably more than the wife in some cases. So whatever he's talking about, it's because he didn't get it. It's not because men don't know how.
Well, it's because these
guys... To be fair, yeah, Michelle beat up all the spaces because there's no place for a guy to go anymore, short of the military. And even then, you can't go anywhere without female military members with you.
Well, I will tell you this.
They're like, you got to watch out. There's an op honor thing, which is like Me Too for the Canadian military.
Men don't form bonds the same way that women form bonds. And that's the thing is like, because we live, in a female centric society, a social order right now, we're expected to do it the right way. And the right way is, well, however women are doing it. So we should be calling up our guy friends and going, hey, Ryan, hey, Rye, let's go out to the coffee shop and let's just talk and catch up. That way we can form bonds. No, that's not how. Let's go. Well, it's the community. It's the gee. That's not how we
closer bond bullshit.
Like, here's the thing. The reason like I'm your friend and the reason why we do stuff together is because we do have a bond, but we have a bond because we share some interest. We have something that we both do. We have a shared goal and a shared drive to create something, to make a project or to do a podcast, do whatever the hell, do whatever hell.
We'd be hunting together, basically.
Right. And so there has to be an activity. There has to be some sort of share. That's when guys actually talk to each other, is when they're fixing a car together or when they're fishing together or when they have some sort of shared project that they're doing. They don't get together just to share their emotions. That's what women do. That is not what guys do.
A waste of time too.
What women talk, men do. And here's the thing: is this is written by a guy, and he's like siding with Michelle Obama. What that says, and this is not a political thing, but that says to me that he still thinks like a woman. He is a properly trained, blue pill conditioned guy who believes that it is more advantageous, or it is the correct way to communicate with men like women. And that is why you get these guys, you get generation after generation of these boys who do not know how to relate to other men. When I did this as I'm going to give away part of my fourth book, but
yes,
there was a time when I was doing a little bit of write up here about a men's retreat for a church. And I was like, well, what do you guys do? I would like to go. And, of course I want to take notes. Right. But I was like, what do you guys do there? And he's, we just get there and we just like connect and we just talk and we pray and all that stuff. But and the thing is, the retreat's in the mountains, right? It's up here in the Sierras and stuff. And I'm like, do you play volleyball? Do you go fish? I mean, you're probably in the prime trout fishing area of the country right now. Why would, no, we don't do that. We just, and I'm like, and you're not supposed to have cell phones too. And I'm like, okay, I could get that, but it's like, to me, that says these are organizers. These are men who don't understand how men communicate. They think that the proper way to do it is to do it the way that they're doing it. We're going to get together and have coffee and just sort of look, longingly into each other's eyes and connect and form bonds. It's like, no, that's not how men do it.
Cancer meetings, man. Dude, that reminds me. Somebody sent this to me on Twitter today. Do you know what the Stirling Institute is?
I have heard that. Somebody just told me that not too long. What is the Stirling Institute?
All right. So yeah, the Stirling Institute, they do exactly what you're saying. It's like men being men, blah, blah, blah. So they have this thing, the men's weekend. And they talk about reawakens and invigorates the masculine spirit through a rugged exploration of the heart, mind, and soul. So they had to put that word rugged in there.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, and you read through this thing, the weekend is tough. 3 long days of grueling introspection. Again, totally wrong adjective. And it's exactly what you're talking about. It's like we're monkeys. You put us in a cage and we'll get along.
Yeah, no. It's like women wanting their husbands to get along with their girlfriend's husbands, like it's a play date, right?
Yeah.
Most women treat their husbands like children anyways. Why not, right? Why not have a play date?
Yeah, and it would be so easy for this weekend institute, instead of this grueling introspection, talking about our feelings, give them a football. Here, shirts, skins. You're too fat. You go on the shirt side.
Yeah, I don't want you on my team.
Give them a rifle. Here, hunting.
Yeah, well, and that sort of, and that, of course, we now here at the end of the show, I wanted to get into this as well, is like, that's why I see things like a lot of these TradCon, conventions, or the Good Man Project is another good example of that, or the We Are Man Enough group. Those guys, they're the basic
Fight Club's testicular cancer reference.
They're the basis of those organizations are men communicating with other men as if they are women, as if we're all going to get together and we're going to come together and communicate for the sake of communicating
without any purpose.
And it's like, and they think if we all did this, we would be better off. We would be better.
Itself, by the way.
we wouldn't have all the suicide anymore if guys could just sort of come together and talk about their problems. It's like, no, men don't want to talk about their problems. They want to solve their problems, because we are problem solvers. And yeah, if I have a problem and I want to talk to somebody, I know guys that I can talk to, but you know what? I'm not going to be like, oh man, my life sucks. Let me tell you about all these problems, Ryan, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be like, dude, what should I do? How can I take care of this? And I would expect my friends to go, here's some ideas. Here's some things that you can do. Here's some pragmatic advice to solve the problem, instead of just sitting there and emoting about it, because that's what you've been taught since you're 5 years old.
And if it is cathartic, it's usually a funny story like, dude, I got screwed up. Check this out. It's something you guys have a laugh about it. Get it out of your system. But it's definitely not a whine.
And that also goes into how, and this is sort of a meta scale example of this, but it's just how women have invaded male space, right? This is the entirety of male space. So not only are we supposed to act like women and communicate like women, we're supposed to actually police each other when we don't act like women.
Bring them in like Shore Patrol. Jeez.
Yeah. One of the things in that Boston, I was telling you about that, was it Boston Herald? I think it was.
Oh, about the text messages, the 50,000 text messages, suicide.
No, but that's another go. No, it was one that I quoted. There was a article, and I think it was the Boston Examiner, and they're saying, well, men don't have friends today. They don't have any more friends anymore. And so that's why they're all killing themselves. Like, I think that maybe the idea that like five for every one woman is killing, for every man is killing himself, is finally becoming annoying. It's getting in the way of the victim narrative. So they've got to find reasons why it's men's fault, why they're killing themselves, right? So we've got to make it up. We got to say, well, they just don't have any friends to really talk to and hash these things out with. And it's like, yeah, because you think that the way that we're going to avoid that or solve that problem is by emoting and talking like women.
I was going to say, it's because you slept with this friend and took the kids.
Yeah.
That's a little bit black, but whatever.
Well, and here's the thing is, like, I hate the way at the end of this, he says, we when we do, it's great. For the most part, we don't. We're often so focused on ourselves, we don't stop to ask what our supposed friends are going through. And it's like, oh, well, okay, fine. But like,
yeah, he could have easily wrote an article where he actually did do that, but he didn't.
Yeah, well, it's based on this idea that we're just these selfish pricks and we don't care about anything. But then as soon as, Rollo Tomasi writes the next book, then it's like, oh, well, this is misogyny. It's not. I can save a lot of guys' lives, and it won't make any difference to this mentality right here.
Nope.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's more narcissism. It's the fantasy that they're blue pill conditioning, lack of a better word, or they're adopting the female way of doing things is somehow better for them. Because it's if I'm nice enough to her, she'll touch my dick. I swear to God, I don't want sex, but if it just happens.
Sam Whiskey here says, if men had communicated like women in prehistoric times, we'd have gone extinct. Yeah, well, here's the thing.
Did anybody talk like that?
Once again, the reason why there's this disconnect is because men and women are different. Our brains are different. Our emotional processing is different. And to deny that, to say like, oh, well, or to accept that and then to try to rewire that is what I've called the T-Rex wants to hunt dynamic, right? And T-Rex doesn't want to be fed. T-Rex wants to hunt. You can't repress 65 billion years of gut instinct. And that's the thing, is like, we need to find, yeah, okay, do we want men to form bonds and everything? Yeah, we do, but let's stop telling them to man down. Let's stop telling them to, that it's unhealthy that they get together and go hunting, or they get, they doing what they're doing is bad for them. I mean, let them. I don't think that the people who are defining what men should be have no business defining what be, because they don't understand it. They don't have any, like, whether it's an innate primal link or they were conditioned, it was conditioned out of them. They have no business trying to define what a man should be. Like when I see these classes for like masculinity studies, and boy, we need to make sure that we can get we need to breed the toxic masculinity out of guys right now. It's like, how would you even know what that is, because you don't have any frame of reference for the last 4 generations of what conventional masculinity actually is.
But I'll do you one better. Like, there's no consequence to them doing this. So really, it's on us to just not listen, and when they yab about it, to tell them to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
There's really nothing else you can do. You can't make talking shit about dudes illegal, and nobody would pass that law. You might as well repeal the 19th for all those wishes are.
Yeah. Adam L says, do you think that porn and video game addictions are contributing factors to young male isolation and loneliness? Yeah. I would say that if they're not, are they contributing to it? Well, here's what I've written is that if it wasn't those things, if it wasn't video games, if it wasn't porn, if it wasn't something, it would be something else. I put that in my, I have a essay called The Something Else, because a lot of religious guys were saying, well, we need to get rid of video games. We need guys to stop doing what they're doing or doing what they enjoy. We need guys to stop
go back to doing model train sets by themselves in the basement.
Yeah, we need to stop guys from doing what they want to do, but we need to stop guys from perpetuating their adolescence. And we need them to man up and prepare for the future, and to prepare to become a better father, and prepare to become a good husband. And, all in spite of the fact that it's probably the worst decision you can make as a man today. But that doesn't matter, because God said so, or whatever. But here's the thing is, I've talked to guys who are married, who don't watch porn, who don't play video games. But you know what they do? They work 60 hours a week. And what they do is they go to work early, or they get up early in the morning, they go to the gym, they go to the office, and they do their thing. And you know what? They stay an extra hour at the office, because it's easier to sit there and get work done for an extra hour than it is to go fight traffic and sit in traffic the whole time for their commute.
Go back to what you resent anyway.
But they're okay with that. And you know why they're okay with that? Because their home life and their sexless marriage is so shitty that it's better for them to stay at work and not deal with it, because that's their something else. Because what it is it's, do you know a guy that has his man cave, or his little spot in the garage where he goes to get away from everything?
I know a guy who podcasts from his.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly.
Justin Boyle, do you have a man cave?
You have a man cave? Do you have a nice little tool utility shed that you built to do your own thing in?
Picking a random guy for the chat here, but this Justin Boyle guy looks like he's got it figured out. So I'm kind of curious what his thoughts are.
What is this?
Oh, he's just a guy in the chat. Nothing important. Taking the piss.
I
see. The rest was a different joke. But no, I agree with him. Everything's a fact.
Be something else. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. There will be other things in place. So if you ban video games, you ban porn, they'll go back to model train and booze. You ban booze, you ban model trains. Guys will make hooch behind the radiator and then beat rocks and sticks together. It's not. The symptoms aren't the solution. The underlying problem is guys aren't getting good social networks in place, and partially for like the reasons women don't. Well, the women always invade them, so they never get to have healthy male ones, as well as like not even. I guess the military was easier. Back when it was conscription, you were forced to be focused around men for at least 3 years during your formative years. And a lot of countries still have that. And for countries like yours and mine, we don't have that anymore. So there really is no guaranteed way to build male camaraderie. So it's kind of on us individually, which sucks. But at the same time, it's like porn. It puts the onus on us to not slap our meat every 5 minutes. It puts an onus on us to go make some male friends and have something to do. And guys are floundering because there's nothing in place to help them.
Yeah.
Which I would say the only answer you can do then is you kind of have to take it upon yourself instead of being like this douchebag you were talking. What's the author? I don't even care what the author's name is. He brings up all this navel gazing about, oh, Michelle's right. Men suck because we do this and we do this. I'm not going to do any of it, but it feels good to bitch about. Like, fuck. You can't make this shit up. It's like it's almost like we want to fail so we have something to complain about. And that's the part that bothers me the most. It's like guys don't even seem to mind losing in this way.
Yeah. Well, there's this other part here where he says, I came to the conclusion that she was right. Men don't have real friends. Sure, we've got friends we grab a drink with, go to a game, see a movie or whatever, but we don't have any real friends. Like, okay, when I read that, what that says to me is we don't have any real friends because real friends would be relating as women relate, because that's the only way of legitimizing friendship right now is if it's like a woman, if it is, because that I keep trying to hammer this home, is this is the female correct, feminine correct way of thinking and changing. And this is down to the decision making. That we're going to talk about mental point of origin. And I say, you need to make yourself the first thought that comes to your head. This female correctness is the way that this guy and a lot of other guys, that's the first thought that comes into their head. So it's not their mental point of origin. It's the women who are the mental point of origin. And this is a perfect example of that. He says, what I mean by real friends is that you're able to open up able to open up to these people. They know things about your life, emotional standing, and so on. See, this is exactly, he's expecting men to behave like women. Men don't have to have that kind of connection. Sure, you might talk with your friends about how the job has stressed you out. You might even tell him your girlfriend is tripping, but sometimes those friends don't even know where you work. You're not going to tell him what's going on with you and the spouse because that's none of his business. It's like, yeah, of course not. And the other thing is, part of that is
it's so antisocial. He's talking about males and friendship like he read it out of a book.
Right. Well, yeah, read it out of a Dr. Phil book or read it out of some, is regurgitating this from like Psychology Today, which is just rife with female correctness. This is the right way to do that. If I had real friends, if I had real friends, they would relate to me as a woman would relate to me, because he desperately wants to be a woman. He doesn't understand how to interrelate with men, because if he did, this would be second nature to him. It's like, yeah, of course not. And the other aspect of this is, first of all, we're different. We emote differently. We have, we process emotions differently. But also the thing is for men are in dominance hierarchies. That's the sad truth. I'm sorry to say, but we are in dominance hierarchies.
I wouldn't even call it a sad truth. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that
gilded cage of being a woman.
It's a sad truth to the guys. It's a sad truth to the guys who want to be more perfected females. So
good point.
Anyways, we got to wrap up here. This has been really fun. Guys, if you have not subscribed, please do so. Hey, check this out. Look at this new banner thing I get to do now. Woohoo! Isn't that cool? Look at the new scrolling Chiron that we get down there. So now we can have the longest messages in the world and have them scroll across the screen. Thank you, StreamYard, for all of these cool things. If you have not followed Ryan the Stone, please do so. Yeah, you can also find him on Twitter. Are you just Ryan Stone on Twitter now? Is that what
_Ryan_Stone still?
I don't have that handy right now. I am going to be on the Masculine Geek podcast here in 1 hour. So that's why I have to kind of get out. Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. So if you want to see me sort of geek out with these guys and do some things that I don't necessarily do all the time, go and check that out here in exactly 1 hour. Again, I will be, let's see, Friday, I will be on with Pat Campbell once again. That's 11 a.m. Eastern time. Follow my Twitter and you can get the updates and find out what find out where the URL is for that. It's AM 1170 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Also on Friday, I'm contemplating doing 2 shows. I'm definitely confirmed to go on with Donovan Sharp actually on noon Eastern. No, it's gonna be 3 o'clock Eastern time, noon my time.
When was the last time you were on the Den?
I have not been there in a while. I haven't been there since he changed up the studio. So he had the old studio when I was on. I think it was probably back in like September was the last time I was on there.
Oh, that was
so,
like back when you're still putting Dev's ass on the streams there to demonetize us.
Yeah, I know, right? So I'll be talking with Donovan on Friday, and then I'm also going to go on with Jack Napier for his what's he called that, the Red Evenings
Red
or something. I'm going to do that on Friday evening. I think that'll be about 6:00 Eastern, or maybe it's 9 Eastern. Not sure.
I just know it's midnight here, so I think it's probably 9 o'clock.
Yeah, so it's probably 9 o'clock my time, so it's midnight there. So we'll check. Those are lots of things, and then also we are going to be doing Rule Zero on Saturday, and we have a topic, right?
Are you asking me or telling me?
Yeah, we have our topic is blue pill.
I gotta go check.
Blue pill for women. That's what it was. Yes. So we're going to be talking about the blue pill for women on Rule Zero on Friday. So all of the competing podcasts can now go get their guys together to talk about the blue pill for women.
Dude, I don't mind it. I wish everybody would start their anti-red pill podcast at the same time so we can get that competition going. We can maybe make friendships out of this.
I know. And you were saying and I'm going to pop off a little bit here at the end. You were saying that we own this hour. We own that the morning. We own Saturday mornings, I think, like between your show and then Rule Zero and then party, whatever. And
get to bed early because you got to hit up in the morning with you and whoever on Sunday. Is it you and Pat that do the Sundays?
Yeah, Pat and I do. Well, I don't have to get up that early. That's Red Pill 101 every Sunday at 4:30 Eastern time, 1:30 Pacific time if you are in my ungodly time zone. So anyways, this has been fun, and I guess we'll see you guys next week. Anything you got going, Ryan? You want to?
Like I said, for me, it's just cranking out videos. The newsletter's back in full swing. A lot of the old pickup stories, a lot of the lessons from it. And book is just about finished the second draft. These things are coinciding.
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that, I put out so much content. I can never get a proper script together of what's coming up next. You just got to pay attention on my channels, and I'll be feeding it through the fire hose.
Excellent.
So get on it.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say also the second part to my Respect series on my blog will be coming out this week. So pay attention for that. Oh, and then I think we're supposed to drop a plug for John at Modern Life Dating and his new video that he released today. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up John from Modern Life Dating and check out this video. I'll post it. I'll link it at least on my Twitter so you guys can check it.
And then I want to give a shout out then just in the chat there, Justin Boyle. He's been on So Suave for years. Throw your social media stuff up there. Get them to follow you around. He's awesome. He's switched on. He knows what he's talking about. So give him all your love. Right and on. It's on you now, Justin. It's your turn to perform now. I've done all I can for you, buddy.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. It's been fun.
Thanks.
We'll see you.
Okay, bye.